Um, yeah, I find it helpful to begin my practice seated. You're welcome to begin seated, or you could also lie down on the ground or whatever feels comfortable today. If you notice that your thoughts are floating away from you in this moment, that's perfectly normal. And you may find it helpful to connect to the present moment by maybe noticing that you're breathing. And you could choose to close your eyes or keep your eyes open. Excuse me. And wherever your hands are resting in this moment, maybe bringing some softness or some release to your fingers or your hands. And if you've brought your awareness to your breath, maybe just noticing any sensations as you breathe in and any physical sensations as you breathe out. You may feel some movement in your chest, a kind of rising and falling feeling. You may feel sensation in kind of the side of your body, your rib cage. That may be more of an expanding outward and drawing inward feeling as you breathe. Or maybe you feel sensation down in your belly, your stomach. And that may be a kind of growing larger sensation as you inhale, and maybe a softening as you breathe out. And this could be a moment where you let your awareness drift through your body, noticing different sensations as you breathe, letting your awareness float or drift from your chest, maybe into your rib cage or your belly, and then back up again. And it's possible that you'll notice the quality or style of your breath changing depending on where you bring your awareness. And one option here would be to stay with your breath, stay with whatever sensations you're noticing. You could be here for your whole practice if you choose. Another option would be to set an intention today. And one way to do that is to perhaps reach up. And as you exhale, you could bring your hands towards your heart. So if you're seated, maybe you bring your palms together. If you're lying on your back, it may feel more comfortable to stack your hands over your heart. And if you're seated, there's an option of bowing your head or bringing your chin towards your chest. If you've brought an intention with you, you could use that to guide you through your practice, kind of focus or through line. And if nothing comes to mind, I'd love to offer you the idea of noticing and maybe accepting yourself as you are, and whatever that means for you. And if you'd like more movement in this moment, maybe you reach overhead, maybe you blink your eyes open, breathing in. And as you exhale, you could bring your arms back down, maybe resting your fingers on the ground if you're seated. Now, if you're lying down, this could be a moment wherein you start to guide yourself towards seated. If you're already seated, maybe some side to side movement, starting to warm up a bit. And if it feels interesting, you can continue side to side, or maybe you find the ground with your hands and sweep one arm overhead and then the other. So starting to explore maybe a stretch or lengthening into the side of your body. And your arms can get quite fluid or soft here, wave like maybe. Continuing from side to side, or perhaps you come up through center, reaching both arms up, breathing in. And as you exhale, circling your wrists, maybe opening to the right, coming into your seated twist. And then as you breathe here, you could think about sort of lengthening or maybe sitting taller as you breathe in. And then as you exhale, it may be available to deepen into your twist or melt into your twist. So staying within what feels comfortable and safe today for your body, maybe lengthening or sitting taller as we inhale, possibly deepening or melting into your twist as you breathe out. On an inhale, you could reach for the sky, coming back through center. And then as you exhale, maybe you circle your wrists in the opposite direction, opening to the left, coming into your twist on this side. And if it was useful on the other side, you could try here again, kind of lifting or lengthening on your breath in and twisting or kind of melting into your twist as you breathe out. Inhaling, maybe reaching for the sky, coming back through center. And as you exhale, circling your wrists again, this time perhaps bringing your arms forward in front of you. Your palms could face the sky or they could face each other. As you inhale, maybe lengthening or sitting taller. And as you exhale, maybe leaning forward, almost like you're reaching your fingers towards someone. Inhaling, maybe coming back through neutral or center. And exhaling, maybe leaning forward any amount, reaching forward. And then if you'd like, you could take this a few more times, moving at your own pace. And if you're more interested in kind of staying in a stretch, on your exhale, you could pause and bring your fingertips to the ground and breathe here. If you'd like to stay in your forward fold, that's perfectly okay. You could continue that forwards and back movement, or maybe a side to side sway. We'll take a few cycles of breath and movement or stillness, really listening into your lower back, maybe even into your hip joints a bit. And as we begin to lift up out of your forward fold, maybe you reach up, coming through what feels like center. And as you exhale, you could bring your arms back down alongside your body. So that's one option of movement, maybe reaching up as you breathe in and exhaling your arms back down. Or for A kind of different sensation in your shoulders. So you could sweep your arms slightly forwards and up as you inhale. And as you exhale, maybe releasing your arms slightly back and down alongside your body. So maybe a kind of circular movement in your arms, listening into your shoulders, modifying this movement in any way. And then if it sounds interesting, maybe reversing that movement. So as we inhale, possibly sweeping your arms back and up. And as you exhale, you could bring your arms forwards and down, connecting your movement and your breath in some way. You can change directions as many times as you'd like. That's really whatever feels most interesting into your shoulders today. Possibly resting your hands on your fingers when you're ready, and maybe finding some great big circles in your torso. This is also a good moment to swap out which ankle you have on top if you're sitting with your ankles crossed. So if you're feeling like that would be helpful, you can go ahead and swap out. Maybe circling, possibly changing directions a few times. Just noticing how you're feeling as you're moving. Maybe your breath is changing in some way. And you could continue these circles, or if you'd like to explore a little bit of a stretch in your neck today, you could come through center, maybe finding a neutral seated place. And then on an exhale, possibly kind of releasing or moving your right ear towards your right shoulder. So that may give you a stretch along the left side of your neck. For more sensation, you could extend your left arm down and to the side. And if it's part of your practice, you're welcome to bring your right hand kind of on top of your head towards your left ear. If that feels helpful today. We'll just breathe here for a moment. Take your time. So, really moving pretty gently in slow motion, rolling your chin down to your chest and then inhaling to look forward. Then, as you exhale, if you choose, you could kind of send your left ear to your left shoulder. And you may already notice the stretch in the right side of your neck. I'm so sorry, excuse me. There are so many things blooming today. Maybe you extend your right arm down into the right, and it's possible that that will kind of change the sensation in the right side of your neck. And there's that option of bringing your left hand to rest on top of your head or near your right ear. So that's up to you if you want to add that in. Moving in slow motion. So being pretty tender with our neck today. Slowly bringing your chin bringing it towards your chest and then inhaling to look forward. And you could pause here or maybe look past one shoulder and then the other. Just letting your head float on top of your neck as you look from side to side. I'll probably continue looking from side to side, but if you're feeling that you want to take a kind of circle with your chin today or a neck circle in some way, that is an option. Each of us kind of moving at our own pace. Maybe you choose to close your eyes in whatever movement you found. Be here for about 4 more cycles of breath. If you found something that your body is enjoying, you can stay with it for longer. Maybe you choose to bring your focus forward, possibly reaching your arms overhead and taking a deep breath in. Then exhaling your palms together towards the center of your chest. Pausing here or interlacing your fingers and circling your wrists. For a little bit of a different sensation, you could draw your elbows closer together, keeping your fingers interlaced and then circle one elbow kind of around the other. And that may bring a softness or a loosening sensation in your wrists. Continuing that movement or changing directions until you feel ready to turn your palms away with your fingers interlaced and maybe reach up to breathe in. And exhale your arms slightly back and down, this time finding the ground behind you, maybe a lift or arching in your back, breathing in. Then as you exhale, you could walk your hands on either side of your body. And we're going to come back to some side to side movement, possibly keeping your ankles crossed, or if it sounds interesting today, you could extend your legs forward, maybe into a gentle V, and continue that side to side movement. There could be a little bend in your knees. Especially if your ankles have been crossed, you may find that you want to give a little bit of movement to your feet or your toes in some way, circling. And then you could continue this movement or maybe exploring hinging your toes from side to side so that your feet kind of melt from side to side. And you may even notice one side of your seat lifting off of the ground and then the other. So this may bring some movement or sensation up towards your hips or your hip joints. Maybe coming towards a moment stillness in your center, inhaling possibly a lift in your heart. And as you exhale, you could bend your knees, planting your feet in front of you. Maybe you hold on to opposite wrists, enveloping your knees. Maybe a lift in your heart, breathing in. And as you exhale, releasing and making your way towards your tabletop. Possibly your knees are beneath your hips, your hands beneath your shoulders. And it may be useful to think about spreading through all 10 of your fingers. That may kind of distribute the weight more evenly away from your wrists. There's an option to start circling your hips through the air, trying out both directions and really listening into your hip joints today. And you could continue that movement for as long as you'd like. And the next thing we'll explore is our cat cow spinal wave. So, in your own timing, when it feels right, you can use your inhales to look forwards. Maybe your belly drops, maybe your tailbone lifts behind you. And as you exhale, you may feel a kind of rounding all the way up towards your upper back, looking at your legs. And I'd love to invite you to follow your own breath. It can be useful to close your eyes. You could try that if you'd like. A few more cycles of breath. Now, maybe you choose to stay with your cat cow or your hip circles. If you'd like to find a downward facing dog, maybe you come through a neutral spine for your body and possibly tuck all 10 of your toes and take as long as you'd like to begin lifting your hips. Maybe you're looking at your own feet as you bend one knee and then the other. Take your time here, pedaling through your down dog, feeling maybe a stretch along the back of your legs. And as we inhale, if you'd like, you could float your right leg up. And as you exhale, maybe you bring your knee to your chest, rocking forward. Inhaling to lift your right leg and exhaling your knee to your chest. And maybe you take that two more times. The next time your knee is into your chest, maybe you land your shin or the front of your foot, untucking your left toes to melt down into a gentle pigeon. We're not looking for perfect alignment here. So if you have a blanket handy, you can slide it underneath your left hip, or a pillow of some kind may give you support there. Your right hip, excuse me. Your arms could be extended, your palms resting on the ground in front of you. And I'll probably stay lifted, but if you'd like to lean forward or come down into your forearms, it's definitely a moment of free play. So it's each of us finding a stretching sensation towards our right hip joint, maybe even the front of your left leg that feels like a good stretch for your body today. It shouldn't feel painful or tingly or numb. Maybe staying here for about 5 cycles of breath. And you're welcome to pause here for as long as you need. If you're down on your forearms or hinged very far forward, take your time to slowly lift through your heart, maybe extending your arms in front of you. Your right hip is still elevated on a support, maybe removing that support and kind of hinging over towards your right hip so you can sweep your left leg forward. And if it's available, bending your left knee and planting your left foot to the outside of your right knee. So we're making a little bit of a pretzel shape. You could pause here, or if it feels interesting, maybe opening to the right. Your right fingertips could find the ground behind you for just a moment, breathing in. And then as we exhale, opening to the left. And you may find that you want to kind of hug your left leg with your arms, or your left fingertips could find the ground behind you. And it's possible that you'll feel a stretching sensation in kind of the side of your left leg here. And we'll take a couple cycles of breath wherever you are right now. Take as long as you need to release your left leg and sweep both feet back. So rising back towards your tabletop. Again, there's that option of circling your hips in some way. And this time, you may find that your shoulders or your upper body want to kind of explore circular movement as well. So this may be a kind of full spinal cat-like circling hips and rib cage and shoulders, trying out both directions. If you'd like to find your cat cow again, that is an option. You're also welcome to explore your child's form if that feels more inviting today. Either way, we'll take about 4 more cycles of breath before our down dog. There's no rush. So when you feel ready, maybe you tuck all 10 of your toes, possibly lifting your hips towards that inverted V shape, your down dog. Maybe bending one knee and then the other. And then if it feels interesting, possibly floating your left leg up. And then as you exhale, you could bend your knee, drawing it towards your chest, rocking forward, and inhaling, extending back up, exhaling to your chest, and taking that maybe 2 more times. On an exhale, landing your left shin. Maybe you untuck your right toes behind you, coming into kind of each of our own version of pigeon today. your left knee bent, your right leg back. I find a little bit of support underneath my left hip helpful. So you could grab maybe a blanket or a pillow. Now, you may find that you prefer not to have anything under your hip. Really settling into this form. Again, looking for a stretch into your left hip and the top of your left leg, maybe the front of your right leg, hinging forward in a way that feels useful for your body. Acknowledging that this side may feel different than the other side in some way, or it may feel the same, and possibly pausing here for about 4 cycles of breath. And you're welcome to stay here for longer, or if you choose to, you could begin to lift out if you're leaning very far forward. Maybe removing whatever support was beneath your left hip if you've been using one, and landing your left hip. So you may find that you start to kind of lean a little to the left, sweeping your right leg forward, and maybe bending your right knee, planting your right foot on the outside of your left knee. If you choose to, you could pause here or open to the left for a moment, landing your left fingertip, breathing here. And then when you're ready, you could exhale your way over to the right, possibly enveloping or hugging your right leg with your left arm in some way. Your right fingertips could rest on the ground. Just breathing here. Use an exhale to come back to your center. And when you feel ready, you could release your right foot back, finding your tabletop. Maybe you bring your knees back beneath your hips and send your hips from side to side. And again, there's a few options. So maybe there's some circular movement in your hips. You could also take your down dog or your child's form, or if it's part of your personal practice, you're always welcome to take a vinyasa or two. About 5 cycles of breath and free play here. If you found something you're really enjoying, you could stay with it for longer, or maybe making your way towards your down dog at your own pace, widening your stance to about the width of a mat, and then perhaps walking your hands towards your feet, coming into a standing forward fold. There could be a bend in your knees. You could try shaking your head very gently, yes or no, to soften through the back of your neck. Swaying from side to side can be useful. Taking a few cycles of breath here. And then, if you choose, maybe finding a bend in your knees if you haven't already, and perhaps slowly bringing your hands to your knees so that you can begin to look forward. You want to take this really slowly, so give your head plenty of time to sort of recalibrate to being above your heart. As you're looking forward, maybe you reach your arms forward and maybe you begin to rise up to your full standing height, breathing. As you exhale, bringing your arms down alongside your body. As you inhale, maybe you reach up. And as you exhale, bringing your arms right back down. You can continue that movement, or if that bend in your knees felt helpful, each time you exhale, maybe you bend your knees and draw your hips back towards the wall behind you. And as you inhale, you can sort of scoop or lift the air up. We'll take about 4 more cycles of breath. On the inhales, you can add in maybe lifting your heels slightly if that's available. On your next exhale, maybe you stay low, inhaling your arms maybe alongside your ears, kind of wide chair form, breathing in, exhaling here. And as you inhale, once again, rising up to your full height, reaching up, and exhaling your arms down alongside your body. This time, maybe you shake out through your hands. Maybe you send your hips from right to left. Possible that you want to take some circular movement in your wrists or flick through the air to really move around all the joints in your fingers. And then just to welcome ourselves to our standing practice, maybe you bring your hands to your hips, possibly circling your hips a few times in each direction, noticing how you're breathing in this moment, and making your way through what feels like center or a neutral standing place. Your arms can come down alongside your body. As we begin to widen our stance, maybe your right toes point to the right, your left toes forward, a bend in your right knee to sink into what's sometimes called warrior two. And perhaps your arms are wide, your palms could face the ground. One way you could move here would be to inhale as you pull the air in towards your heart, maybe straightening your right leg. And as you exhale, you could push through the air to extend your arms wide. So, taking this at your own pace and moving in a way that feels intentional, powerful, as if you are moving through something that is thicker than air. If you'd like to, you could continue this movement. But for something slightly different, maybe at the end of an exhale, you bring your right hand or forearm to your leg and begin circling your left arm through the air. And if you prefer to take your extended side angle and pause there, that is welcome. Just taking a few cycles of breath in movement or stillness. Using an inhale to find perhaps a reverse warrior. Your right arm could reach up to the sky. Maybe you're looking into the palm of your right hand, breathing in. And as we exhale, possibly windmilling your hands on either side of your right foot and tucking your left toes, coming down into a low lunge. You're welcome to pause here or shift some weight into your left hand, and your right hand could come to your right knee or maybe extend up into your twist. Breathing wherever you are. And on an exhale, landing your right hand and stepping your right toes into a plank. So from wherever you are, maybe finding your plank form, and then inhaling towards our downward facing dog, possibly bending one knee and then the other. You could take a child's form or a vinyasa or explore your downward dog. And then we'll meet back in standing. So there's a few different ways of getting there. You could come through your downward dog and walk your hands to your feet or your feet to your hands, whichever feels more comfortable. You could make your way to standing the way we did earlier. So a bend in your knees and your hands to your knees and then lift through your heart. Or if you'd prefer, you're welcome to roll or kind of unfurl your way up to standing. Either way, you may feel an inhale as you find standing, maybe reaching up, and exhaling your arms back down. Inhaling, possibly reaching up, and exhaling back down. And if it felt useful earlier, maybe on the exhale, your knees bend, your hips could draw back. On the inhale, you can imagine scooping or lifting the air up, rising to your full standing height. And at the top of your inhales, there's that option to rise towards your tippy toes or lift your heels off of the floor any amount. There may be some other movement you need right now. So, just a reminder that you can modify this practice in any way and for any reason. And the next time you're exhaling, maybe staying low. And then you could inhale your arms alongside your ears, breathing out here. Inhaling as you push into the ground with your feet rising up, standing, and exhaling your arms slightly back and down. Maybe that shake out in your fingers. You could play that invisible piano or flick through the air with your fingers. As you begin to widen your stance, your left toes could point to the left, your right toes forward, possibly a bend in your left knee. Or maybe you float your arms wide as you look past your left shoulder. And one way to explore movement here would be to gather up the air towards your heart as you inhale, straightening your left leg. And as you exhale, pushing through the air or extending, taking up space. Inhaling, pulling in, and exhaling to expand and grow large. You can continue this movement, or at the end of an exhale, maybe you bring your left forearm or your hand to your leg, finding your extended side angle or circling your right arm in some way. A few cycles of breath. On an inhale, you could come towards your reverse warrior, maybe looking up into the left, your left palm. On an exhale, perhaps you windmill your hands on either side of your left foot, tucking your right toes to come into a low lunge. And then you can choose if you want to pause here or shift some weight into your right hand and maybe bring your left hand to your knee or extend your left arm up, finding a bit of a twist, breathing here. Use one of your exhales to begin moving towards your plank. So you can land your left hand and step your left toes back, pausing here, and using an inhale at some point to lift your hips and find your downward facing dog. There's a few different ways of coming to standing, to finding your way of moving into your standing body. There's no wrong way to move right now. There's no wrong way to move ever. As you come to standing, you may find that you want to inhale and reach up and exhale your arms back down. And then there's a few options here. So if you'd like to take some balance today, you could maybe bring your palms together towards the center of your chest, and you may find your shoulders release down and back. If you're interested in more movement, you could bring your hands to your hips and maybe come back to your hip circles or side to side movement in your hips. For a moment of balance, you may find it helpful to choose something that you can look at that's not moving. Soften as much as feels possible the muscles of your face, the muscles around your eyes and your jaw, your throat, possibly lifting your right heel, maybe flexing your right foot, bending your knee, drawing your leg forward. You could keep a bend in your knee or you could extend your leg. Your hands can choose wherever feels most balanced today to be. Let's breathe in. As you exhale, you can land your right foot, releasing your arms down, and maybe send your hips from side to side. And if you'd like to take a balance on the other side, possibly bringing your palms together to your heart, releasing your shoulders down and back, softening the muscles of your face in whatever way feels available. And maybe lifting your left heel off of the ground, possibly flexing your foot, bending your knee to lift your foot. And then you could choose to extend your leg forward or keep that bend in your knee. Being creative with your arms if you'd like. Use one of your exhales to land your left foot and release your arms down, maybe shaking out a bit through your hands or sending your hips from side to side. And if there's any other movements you feel would be useful for you in your standing practice, you're welcome to take them. Otherwise, possibly starting your transition down towards your mat. You could step to the top of your mat if you're using one and reach up to breathe in. As you exhale, swan diving into your forward fold, inhaling about halfway up, exhaling back down. As you land your hands, you could step your feet into one last plank form and pause here for as long as you need. Maybe you inhale into one last down dog in our practice together, lifting your hips. And we'll exhale our knees down towards the tabletop for just a moment so that you can sit down to one side and maybe begin to make your way onto your back, drawing your knees into your chest, rocking from side to side. You may find that you want to cross your ankles as you rock from side to side with your knees in your chest. You're also welcome to explore sort of bringing one knee into your chest and extending the other leg and maybe trying that on both sides. A few options of movement here. If you'd like to, you could land your feet with your knees bent, and maybe you extend your arms down alongside your body. We're coming into what's sometimes called bridge. If this is part of your practice, you can go ahead and move into it. Otherwise, maybe thinking about the connection between your feet and the ground, and you can start to sort of push into the ground with your feet, maybe tucking your tailbone and your hips might lift. It can be useful to think about lifting your hips and maybe also lifting your chest. You're welcome to try coming towards your tippy toes or rising to your toes. We'll take a few cycles of breath here, using one of your exhales to slowly come back down, landing your heels if they were lifted, and softening your arms wide, maybe like the letter T on either side of your shoulders so your knees can fall together from side to side, kind of like windshield wipers. And you may choose to continue this movement in your knees or pause on one side and then the other. And if you're feeling that you'd like a final spinal twist today, one way to do that would be to shift your hips over to the right and then maybe cross your right leg over your left leg, sort of intertwining your knees. And then allow your knees to melt together to the left. So that's one way of finding spinal twist. You're also welcome to keep your knees side by side and move them over to the left. Or maybe some other way of twisting that you prefer. Maybe you're cactusing your right arm, letting your shoulder get heavy, breathing. Maybe your eyes are closed. Slowly landing your left foot to bring your knees back through center. And if your legs are crossed, you could uncross your right leg, maybe shift your hips slowly over to the left, possibly crossing your left leg over the right. And take your time, see if you want to move your intertwined knees over to the right, kind of rolling up and onto your right hip. And if this feels like a comfortable twist, you can stay with it or gently adjust and stack your legs, melting them together to the right, bringing your left arm to the left, maybe a sense of softening into your left shoulder. Breathing here, your eyes could close. Slowly bringing your knees back through center, uncrossing your legs if they're crossed, and adjusting your hips back towards your center or neutral. And this could be the moment when you begin your transition into a moment of rest. Maybe you start to get very comfortable right now. You could also continue moving. So if your body has other movements or sensations you would like to explore today, you can take them, honoring your needs and what feels good in this moment. If you're choosing to move to a moment of rest, take your time, really get comfy. You could be on your belly or on your back or on your side or seated. You can grab a blanket or a pillow. Coming to a place where perhaps you feel your eyes starting to close. Or maybe you notice your face letting go of any facial expression. It's possible that you'll feel your shoulders rest or soften downward, your arms maybe getting heavy, your fingers resting. And you could come back to the connection to our breath we found at the very beginning of our practice today. Of drifting your awareness from your chest down through your ribs and into your belly as you notice your body breathing naturally, gently, your legs resting, your feet soft. As you take this time to rest.
Les rêves des amoureux sont comme le bon vin. Ils donnent de la joie ou bien du chagrin. Affaibli par la faim, je suis malheureux, volant en chemin tout ce que je peux. Car rien n'est gratuit dans la vie. L'espoir est un plat bien trop vite consommé. À sauter les repas, je suis habitué. Un voleur solitaire et triste à nourrir. Un jeu si amer, je ne peux réussir, car rien n'est gratuit dans la vie. Sortez les bouteilles et fini les ennuis. Je dresse la table de ma nouvelle vie. Je suis heureuse à l'idée de ce nouveau destin. Une vie à me cacher et puis libre enfin. Le festin est sur mon chemin. Une vie à me cacher et puis libre enfin. Le festin est sur mon chemin. Slowly begin to deepen your breathing. Tenderly bringing your awareness back from wherever it may have wandered. Maybe you begin to find some movement in your fingers, your toes. It's possible that you let your head fall softly from side to side, or stretch your arms overhead, or explore some movement in some way. And if you'd like to, you could begin to make your way towards seated Your eyes could be open or closed. And maybe you take a moment to place one hand over the other over your heart. Acknowledging this shared experience we've had together in our practice, connected through our practice. As we inhale, if you'd like to, you could reach up. And as you exhale, maybe you bring your palms together towards the center of your chest. Peace and light from my heart to yours. Thank you all for sharing this time with me, for sharing this practice with me. I hope you all just have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I look forward to seeing you very soon, hopefully next